Church of Scientology so afraid of?
This is SPTV.
Hi guys, welcome back to SPTV. And in today's episode of What is Scientology so afraid of? What are they so afraid of, you guys? Leave it down in the comments. Let us know what you think they're so afraid of, because we're going to share with you what we think they're so afraid of. But, we'd love to hear from you as well. So thank you for all of you who are following and liking our videos and reaching out, because this is what this experience is all about. It's about connecting and owning our voice and moving forward. I have received an incredible amount of sweet messages, and I appreciate each and every one of you. I try to answer as many as I can, because it really means a lot that you guys are taking the time to really understand and analyze the facts. And the reason that it's a very powerful moment that we're having here, you guys, is because for somebody like myself that have spent so much time on the sidelines being muscled, one of my favorite commenters the other day said how, we're in a moment that is a turning moment in history, where all these gatekeepers that have been, involved in systemic corruption, right? Because as much as we talk about Scientology, well, you know what? No corruption can exist if the environment isn't correct. So the temperature has been set, just like with mold, right? Like when you set the temperature, you go, oh, with this amount of temperature, mold can't grow. But if it starts getting to this humidity and this temperature, then mold's just going to go everywhere. And the press is like that thermometer. They're supposed to check that the temperature doesn't break, because once it breaks, then the mold just starts proliferating everywhere. And I really want you guys to understand that this is what this journey is about. It's about finding the truth. It's about exposing the facts. It's about repudiating all the false narratives that have been put out there with different agendas from different corporations that had nothing to do with helping the children that are still stuck at the hotels. So in this episode, we're going to get into David Miscavige's dad. You know how we shouted out my dad the other day on that other video as Father of the Year? Well, in this case, we're going to have a different situation, because this is a story where it's opposite of me and my dad. So my dad forced me to become an auditor, left me at the hotel, completely was the financial benefactor of my child trafficking. And that was my father. But in David's case, it's a little different. So we're going to react to his father discussing his situation and see what we have. So wouldn't you know, you guys, that yet again, here's ABC 2020, and our favorite 2020 reporter, Dan Harris, is going to show up with the lead. So there's a lot for you guys here in store. We're going to get into all of it, and we're going to exactly figure out what in the hell is going on and what in the hell is everyone so afraid of. All right, let's get into it.
You are one of the relative few that hold the answers
You don't have an organization attacking you,
that all humankind depend upon.
following you.
You mean something like this? Having a stranger lurk around a quiet residential street in West Allis, Wisconsin?
The people down here called the cops and they said, listen, there's a guy out here looking in a house and we think he might be a drug dealer.
The police are called in only to make an eye-popping discovery. The mystery man's rented SUV looks like an arsenal on wheels, loaded with handguns, rifles, ammo, a stun gun, a high zoom camera, and a satellite computer.
That sounds like this guy's going to war.
It sounds like he's a hitman, doesn't it?
That man, Dwayne Powell, swears he's not a hitman.
Well, shout out to you, Dwayne Powell, that is saying that you're not a hitman. I mean, the clownery, the complete and utter clownery on full display here on national TV, you guys. And this time, shouting out ABC 2020 Dan Harris for starting with the correct exposure of the facts. So credit when credit is due. Dan Harris, reporter Dan Harris, is doing the right thing here, you guys, by contextualizing what in the hell happened with Ron Miscavige having this character here that you are seeing all in the screen for all of us to see, who's accepting the type of money to do what. And you know what, characters of whoever you are getting hired by all of the Scientology attorneys, you could have before pretended to think that you're working for an institution that is not in the business of monetizing systemic abuse of minors. So just an FYI for any private detective out there that's looking for a job, receiving blood money from literal child abusers. Just so that's clear, that's in the public record, we said it. Anyone going forward accepting jobs from any Scientology attorney, be warned that these people are in the business of trafficking kids from across the world to end up in their hotels. And if you are a private investigator with any brains in your head, you should be investigating who your client is before just getting paid. Because if you just get paid like this man here who didn't do his due diligence as an investigative person, if you're working with crooked people, guess what happens? What we just see here. So any private investigators that are out there thinking you can be so smart and you can be so clever, start looking out for your best interest. Because trust me, the people you're going to go get a job from do not give a flying F what your interests are. And they will use you and throw you under the bus faster than your head can spin. So thank you, Dan Harris, for putting this man here on the screen so we can all see the type of people that are taking jobs in America to go after senior citizens and children. As we know, Liz Ferris is being fair gamed as we speak. We know Vanessa has been being fair gamed as we speak. So try fair gaming the kids you abused. All of you, try it. Because we've got cameras all over us. We got the right people on speed dial now. You can't stop us calling the phone. We have an entire community on YouTube. We can go on live in a matter of a second, and you will be exposed to the world. Not because, oh, I was doing a job and I got this job. If you're working for these people, be advised who you're working with. And if you're an investigator that investigates before you get you know what in the you know where, you know, consider it like, is this in my best interest or am I going to get played? And then just figure out what are the possibilities of you getting played given what's on the record already. So if attorneys such as Monique Yingling and her cohorts come searching and knocking for you at the door, claiming they can pay you as much money as you can possibly get, weigh your options in a very intelligent way. Because you know what? You're not going to intimidate us anymore. We lived under the thumb of these thugs our entire life. We know how to protect each other. We have supportive systems. And for every last private investigators that you go and hire for yourselves, guess what? We're starting to do the same. So the minute you see any of us getting literally harassed by any of these creeps without scruples, trust me, the people without scruples are the ones who should be scared. So let's continue. Let's hope this interview continues with Dan Harris going in the right direction.
He's a $10,000 a week private eye with a very famous client.
Damn. 10K, you guys. Literally. So really think about those 10K when you get dragged in a way where you'll never be able to scruff your image. You'll never be able to scrub your blood money that you'll be taking out of child traffickers that are running this racketeering, disgusting hotel operation. The company. So just for all you private investigators out there, this is a literal course on how you should not get scammed into being hired by the company. If it smells like Monique Yingling is anywhere near, run for the literal woods.
Company I work for is huge.
So why are they spying on this 80
Okay, shout out to you. The company you work for is huge. Are you working for a company or a church? Yo, attorneys, anyone there? Hello? Hello? Anybody home? No? We want to know, is this a church or is this a company? Because shit not making sense right here in this very good segment of ABC 2020 that we're watching.
year-old man who plays the horn for a living.
What kind of super dark secret world is this you got yourself involved in?
I have never met a more
What kind of super secret, literally, this police department, shout out to them for asking the right questions. This is a law enforcement that because they're in the middle of nowhere, they're not compromised, right? So we have the LAPD compromised, we have Clearwater PD compromised, but these police people are doing their job, and shout out to all law enforcement that does do their job. Because as much as we're coming here, we are also aware of the corruption involved in y'all's police departments. We know how all of these pyramids of hierarchies work. The corruption works the same. Corporations, LAPD, wherever you go is the same thing, you guys. So we have to be able to laser focus on the corruption because that's what we're here to get rid of. You know, people make mistakes, people commit felonies, people do all kinds of things with their life. Ask Debbie Cook, ask Marty Rathbun, ask all these characters that have been coming out of that. Yeah, you can really screw up your life by making really bad choices. You can become part of the corruption. You could literally just, your entire life can be sucked in to be part of some corrupt criminal conspiracy. That's literally planet Earth, you guys, not just Scientology, not just these religions. There's all kinds of conspiracies and corruption everywhere. That's never going to end. But what they say, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So going back to that whole thing about the temperature, if we keep the temperature right, the corruption doesn't breed. So when it starts coming out, it gets sucked the air out of it quick. And you know what? It stays there. And I've learned that a lot from working with plants, because my husband, Michael, actually is incredible at floral arrangements and plants and flowers and things like that. And we've been growing things, and I've been shown this whole entire different side of the world. And one day I was like, we were growing something, and he was telling me about, the mold and the temperature and all of that. And all of a sudden I saw it. I was like, oh my God, it's like corruption. So that was a big full circle, but I wanted to share that with you guys because I think it's becoming crystal clear what we are against, and crystal clear what we're not warring with, right? As much as the media's pitched us as this people that are disgruntled and worrying and this and that, we care about the people that are being abused. That's all. So these are the set of facts that we all have to think about in order for it to stop. If it doesn't get admitted, guess what, you guys? Without awareness, where's the change? Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Competent, a more intelligent, a more tolerant, a more compassionate being.
A story that affects every Scientologist.
Scientology. Howell says the church is his client, and his target, the estranged father of David Miscavige, the church's all-powerful, wildly controversial leader.
When somebody in
Well, want to react to the point of, let's really start contextualizing for everybody how much it affects people to be falsely pitched a racketeering scam as a church, and how much that's been used and weaponized against our intellect, because we getting told you can't discriminate, you can't be bad. We're not against religion, we're not against beliefs, we're not against what everybody wants to decide to do with their lives as adults, as long as they're not going to use whatever is that belief to perpetrate atrocities on even their own children. Like, even if they're not your children, you should care about what other children are going through. As an adult, this is what I wish somebody would have done for me when I was stuck inside that hotel. So all that this requires is for me to show up and show you that, yes, we are here to resolve a problem that's long term. And the only way that we're going to resolve the problem is by confronting the actual facts as they are.
roles consider he's joined for the duration.
Tonight, the explosive new book that's causing a he said, they said between one man and the church he left behind.
It was an escape. You think you can just walk out? No.
It's not just that he
And there's our favorite woman of the moment, Monique Yingling, who that day apparently was really, really feeling like she needed to answer some questions. Good to see you, Monique.
decided to write a book. He decided to tell a false story.
Okay, you guys, and really let's look at this photo that gives us the picture of this American family and gives us a picture of all of these Scientology families when you really think about it, right? Because this is what you're seeing here, what family is all about. When you look at this picture, it looks perfect. Dave is there, Shelly's there, everyone's almost smiling. Some of them over there on the right look a little frightened, but you know what? We can all look kind of weird as kids. The other little girl is like, sleeping. And really, when you think about it, that's the tragedy right there, what we're seeing on the screen. Like this family that looks picture perfect. All of our families have a million and one things that could be happening with this and it could be happening with that. And no family's perfect. And that's part of life. But what became of this family is the true tragedy of the story. What became of every last member in here and the generational trauma that was inflicted due to the rhetoric of an indicted felon. See, I've been saying an indicted felon, you guys, all this time. But remember, L. Ron Hubbard was indicted and was on the run. He was indicted for fraud. So again, we cannot have a full-blown indicted felon with these reports of his rhetoric is church-like and everyone can follow his influence, because of course a full indicted felon wouldn't be pitching anyone any bad ideas, right? Like that's just not possible. Like how could a full-blown felon that's indicted be pitching somebody a bad idea? I mean, does that make sense for you guys? Put it in the comments if it makes sense, because I would love to hear if any of this makes sense to you, other than the tragedy of this photo, which, you know, shout out to all these people. And we wish we wouldn't be here having this conversation, because it's really, really sad. And there's a lot of pain here. And it's just horrible American tragedy.
A deafening crack in Scientology's royal family.
David is backstage.
Okay, now, Dan, here is where you are gonna get called out for your salaciousness and your spin on the royal family. What the hell are you talking about? They don't call themselves that. Nobody called themselves that. Nobody called them that in there. So where are you getting your idea that this is like the royal family? That is so corny and inappropriate. And it really is an insult, because again, you don't take our claims seriously. It's either children are not being abused in these hotels and we're complete crazy deranged maniacs that have no clue or anything better to do with our lives than waste more of it having these conversations, returning to the same old narratives that we've heard ad nauseum for 10 years after nothing has changed, after we get this far in year 2023, with everyone in the hotel still doing everything that happened to Ron Miscavige, Shelly Miscavige, all the generational trauma has been passed down from top all the way to bottom. Some people are right now on their 5th generation of doing the indicted felon's bidding. So if you're not doing this because of you wanting to help those people, even the ones that are doing the horrible stuff, like you've got to make them become aware somehow. But if you keep capitulating to this nauseating, ridiculous talking points about how are they in a church and they're hiring someone that's a hitman and is found and is being interrogated for having bombs and explosives. Like, again, it's like, where's your investigation skills, dude? Where are they? Like, where is this media investigating something? Because they can't pitch two things at once. It's either Ron's being followed by a man that could literally be a hitman that didn't maybe come through with his thing. We see how much money he's being paid. So yeah, it didn't happen. It didn't take place. But why the hell was he riding in a van that had all that access right there? On a senior citizen, no less. What in the hell was so dangerous about this man? I mean, you guys, seriously, like, this is Ron Miscavige. Like, literally, why was this man with all of that disgusting stuff in his van following a senior American citizen? Like, so, and Ron Miscavige never called himself "We're the First Family." So again, it is just so nauseating, you guys. It's just so corny and tacky. So yeah, it's insulting because you know what? Our trauma is not entertainment. Our trauma was real. We were really abused. All of us. I mean, yes, including Ron Miscavige, adults, people that thought they liked it. They all got scammed. Even the people that can purport to be in there because they like it. At the end of the day, you guys, we're gonna advocate for every last shred of a human in there. Because as much as they can claim they like it, their best interest are not anywhere to be found in the rhetoric. So the abusers become the abused that abuse the others, that abuse the it's a full circle of abuse that repeats ad nauseum. It doesn't matter your personality. It doesn't matter if you're a good person, if you want to be good, if you want to be bad, if you want to do this, if you want to do that. You're just stuck in that disgusting wheel of abuse, going circles, circles, circles. Everything is completely dysfunctional, idiotic. You know, L. Ron Hubbard's way was to make it very polished and technological, like do this and then do that and then do this and then do that. And these people are hypnotized to have zero critical thinking. Now realize somebody like Ron Miscavige agreed with that fact. That was pitched to him by L. Ron Hubbard. Okay, so there's so many policies where L. Ron Hubbard tells you, you're not going to criticize me. If you criticize me, you have to decide that you're the stupid one, that you have to clear a word, that you have to do this, that you have to do that. All manner of excuses. It's like the gaslighting narcissistic manual from hell. So we're calling out these policies. And yes, the parents have a lot of responsibility in this, including Ron, but let's contextualize this for everyone because every last person in there is, again, not being advocated for and they're turned against themselves. So let's take a look at how else that happens.
Literally tearing me apart verbally, cursing, yelling, screaming at me.
When he's screaming at you, do you ever think, I changed this guy's diapers?
How ex-members now
I'm just holding silence, you guys, because I changed this man's diapers. Like, Dan, you've had access to how many people that have credibly accused this man of beating people, disappearing his wife, making himself unavailable to be sued. Everything and anything in the world that this white, cis, middle-aged American man that apparently you're all blinded by his narcissism. So as much as you want to look at the people at the hotel and be like, oh, you're so stupid, like this, as much as you're doing that, you got to look at yourself in the mirror because all of those people in the hotel are under the influence of something. An external influence is driving them toward everything that's happening to them inside that hotel. Okay. Again, their best interests aren't taken into account. What they're thinking about is not being taken into account. Everything is being twisted. They're being promised things that are not a thing. Like in the case of like my literally self-admitted felon, you know what? So even he was promised that what I was doing with him was going to somehow be helpful. It wasn't helpful. Nothing was helpful in that rhetoric. Where is all the derangement coming from? The rhetoric will start getting familiarized with the rhetoric so that you can actually start understanding how that rhetoric is driving all the crazy behavior. Again, if you're doing an investigation, dig underneath the surface. Underneath. You got to go underneath. This doesn't make sense, then what's the truth? If this doesn't make sense, what happens? If this is not making sense, if this contradicts this, then what's the truth? Check into it. Is David beating everybody, or is everyone a complete and utter liar? All of us have been lying to you, connecting to you from Mexico, connecting to you from literally Switzerland and, Italy and all parts of places that you've had access to people that come from all over the world that say the same thing. They were abused while at the hotel. Adults, minors, children, anybody, pets. So let's quit with this theatrical whatever, and let's really get you all to understand why it matters that you don't keep putting your head in the sand.
Now depict Gold Base, the church's mountainside paradise, Scientology style, gated with tight security.
They say your mail is checked, that your phone calls are monitored. Is any of this true?
Well, some of that is true, but that doesn't make it a prison.
Tonight, the
Monique. Some of that is true. Here we go. Let's get you out of the screen. Actually, yeah, you're out of the screen. Monique. Here's the question that we want you to answer, Monique. Since you just brought up the word prison, would you please put on the public record all the softball questions that Dan just asked you about? Like, well, they're not allowed to call and they're not allowed. We don't care about none of that, although we can corroborate that that's exactly how we were treated, right? Why was our passport locked, Monique? That's the only question we need to understand. We literally, after that, we don't care. If you can type a letter and charge that money onto your retainer, don't worry about it. It'll get covered as you're typing it to us and telling us, why was our passport confiscated? Children that you were bringing from all across the world having their passport confiscated by, remember that document, Monique, that's called routing form? Routing form, like this, routing form. Okay. And then remember that step that said, take passport. And then you had a little line, and then you had to sign. Yep, passport taken. Now you can go to the next step. So remember how our passport, even that you came up with a funky euphemism. Remember how you were calling it Val Doc, Val. This is how our passport became this, you guys. Val Doc. And just like that, Monique convinced all the lieutenant commanders, Debbie Cook, Angie Blankenship, everyone at OSA, Kirsten, Kathy True, Glenn Stylo. Where's your passport? Give us your passport. We need to have the passport. We have to lock the passport. They all have to be together. Like, we need to make sure. Oh, don't worry about it. You can, what was it called? CSW to get it. Don't you worry. Where you have to write situation, data, solution, approved, okay, or not okay. Just like this, you guys. This is what they call the CSW. So you have to hold situation. My passport is about to expire. I only have 1 week left on my visa. That's the situation. Data. I need to be having my passport handled because it's about to expire and I have to get a visa and I have to go back to Mexico and I have to go through the border and I have to get a religious visa because I've been working here without a religious visa. But, you know, nobody has been able to find me here because literally I'm inside of the hotel, like, and nobody comes here from the police or anyone else. And we always control who's inside. So nobody's going to find out anything at all, blah, blah, blah. And then you put solution. Please let me have my passport so I can just go to Mexico right quick. And as soon as I land back, guess where you end up? You end up back onto this, the routing form. And once you're on this routing form again, you guys, guess what? There's a new line that's blank. And guess what needs to happen before you can go anywhere? You guessed it. You have to have this little thing here signed again. But in order for that to happen, you had to turn back your passport. So Monique Yingling, we would love to hear how we were all just having a jolly old time, not being able to call anyone from the phone, which true, that doesn't make it a prison. But why the hell were you and your executives, clients that run that hotel? Shout out to Debbie Cook. Give her a call, Monique. Ask Debbie Cook why she was locking up the passports of minors. Maybe Debbie Cook did that on her own. Maybe Debbie Cook and Kathy True had a little meeting at Perimeter Council where they would discuss how to make sure no one blew the hotel. There were all kinds of people showing up for that meeting. So if you don't know about that meeting, ask Debbie Cook what Perimeter Council means and how often they convene to discuss how no one is going to be getting out of the hotel because they have every last child's passport. And also seniors, because you know what? You should not be abusing seniors. And we will advocate for seniors as well. Like Liz Ferris's dad, who you have at the Gold Base, reporting that he's having a jolly old time, even though he told his own daughter that he was dead. So add that to your to-do list of email things that you need to write that need to start making sense. Because I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot more for you to do after we're done with this segment. Let's go back to it. Let's bring
them. And to come to this, what the hell is?
All right, guys. And you know what? We're going to go back here really quick because we have to see this photo. Literally all these people with pictures of their loved
Tonight,
ones
the
that they
story
have
the
no
church
access to.
doesn't want you to hear.
Like, I mean, yeah, they got their 3 seconds there with their loved ones that they can't talk to anymore, but never mind that. So we are seeing this and reacting, and it's crazy.
I raised them. And to come to this, what the hell is this? This is nuts.
A father's story.
Well, shout out to you, Ron Miscavige, because it is literally this is how I would put it. There you go, guys. NUTSAF.
The ABC News exclusive, as a father now faces off against his very own son. And not just any son, but the powerful leader of the Church of Scientology, David Miscavige, revered by some, reviled by others.
And now the subject of a blockbuster new book titled Ruthless.
I mean, again, shout out to you reporters that get paid to be talking heads, because revered by some, reviled by other. Again, you guys, like, you see how the media has been playing this whole little story. Like, it's just getting so pathetic. Like, The son of this man comes out. He's being surveilled by someone that is literally having a hit van with guns, with satellite things and everything. And then these people like just like blabber on, like it's just so irresponsible and dumb.
Which comes out next Tuesday. The publishers tell us that lawyers from the church asked them not to release it. So, what's in it that has the church on high alert? Dan Harris finds out.
You have written a whole book about your son, and you've called the book Ruthless.
Yeah.
It's a pretty damning charge to level against your own child.
He wasn't always
Well, Dan, you obviously haven't seen my reaction videos.
that way. When he was a kid, I am telling you, he was a lovable kid.
Ron Miscavige says long before his son became the almighty leader of one of the most controversial new religions on the planet,
How much must one do to call themselves a Scientologist?
before all those speeches to cheering crowds of believers, and before all that elbow rubbing with celebrity Scientologists such as Tom Cruise, John Travolta, and Kirstie Alley, David was just a regular kid growing up in this middle-class neighborhood in Willingboro, New Jersey.
They had 4 kids over there. Phyllis and Gil had 2 girls.
Aluminum siding, public swimming pools, children bicycling in the street. Ron, a salesman and aspiring musician, is raising 4 kids with his wife Loretta, the oldest, Ronnie, David and his twin sister Denise, and their younger sister Lori.
So you spent 12 years right here on the street.
12 years right here, yeah.
Ron says young David was a strong student with an even stronger will.
David's not a big kid,
Not at all.
and yet he was getting into fights.
He's a tough kid. I mean, for his size, he's like a stick of dynamite, you know?
In your book, you describe him having a
Ruthless.
habit of saying not so kind things about other people, even as a boy.
Yeah.
It seems to me from reading your book, to you, in
It's called a bully, Dan.
hindsight, that's a bit of a red flag.
It was a bit of a red flag in hindsight.
You guys, I'm sorry, but what is going on with your hand down here? It's like, why are you like, I'm sorry, guys, but this is acted, and it shouldn't be acted because this is a very real story. So again, and just shout out to my experience with Dan Harris. Again, these segments are produced by all these kinds of people that come to your house and ask you all these intrusive questions, and they're asking you for all these receipts, and it's like you feel like all this importance is being done to the segment. There seems like they're crossing all these I's and checking and this and that and fact checking, and people are calling you again and asking you questions and getting things wrong about their notes and changing dates but Dan Harris spent with me like what you saw in that interview. I mean, obviously it got it got cut off, but by the time I got to him, and again, Dan, that's to put the correct context into it. Did you really spend time with me, asking me questions, getting to know me, finding out like what happened to me, or were you just too busy? Is your paycheck so expensive that you can't afford to listen to the trauma that you're trying to understand, we would hope, so that you can actually not do a story that is glib? So it's giving you some tips to do a better job. So we're tearing you apart, but we're also giving you some constructive criticism, because the type of stories that you are covering here are just glib and superficial. And we're not going to not call you out for that. But hopefully next time that another cult kid comes to you and another set of adults that are telling you someone's beating them and doing all these derangement things, you're going to remember, like, I really need to dig into this. I can't just have it superficial. This is not the segment for that. This segment calls for a ton of due diligence. So either don't touch it with a 10-foot pole or do the job correctly.
But at home, it's not as if Ron himself is receiving world's greatest dad coffee mugs on Father's Day.
Marriage-wise, we didn't have a great marriage at all. We had strife, and there was some domestic abuse, which I don't ever feel good about, and I don't think you can make excuses for that no matter what or how much time goes by.
When you say domestic abuse, what do you mean?
I'd strike her. I'd hit her in the arm or something like that.
In front of the kids?
And in front of the kids, yeah.
Ron's mea culpas notwithstanding, the church says his acts of domestic violence are much more serious and more frequent than he admits. In fact, the church says the book, co-written by another former church member who's now a fierce critic of church management, is filled with half-truths and outright lies.
It's, in my view, a literary forgery.
You guys, let's bring back Monique to talk to her because I like when her photo's on here. Here we go. Oh, look at Monique, so happy to be coming for her interview. She's even wearing pearls, you guys.
Attorney Monique Yingling to discredit the author.
What has David Miscavige's response been to this?
It's all just forgery, Monique. Well, shout out to your projections. Shout out for you projecting on others that they're forging. When shouldn't you be asking yourself that in front of a mirror? Am I forging any documents? Have I ever forged any documents to the IRS? Have I ever forged any documents to the DOJ? Have I ever forged any documents to any news outlets? Ask yourself that question, Monique. It'll do you some good.
I think he's, on a personal level, I think he's probably very, very sad that his father would do this. There seems.
Oh, Monique, you probably went to ethics for that one. You really want to present Dave as pathetically being sad for what his dad is writing about him? He's a full-grown man, David Miscavige. Why would a full-grown man be running around pathetically sad about something that he shouldn't really be feeling that way about it if you really think about it? I mean, what kind of son or what kind of father takes it upon himself to write a whole book about how ruthless their son is? I mean, it's rich for you to pitch this like thing, but I hope you went to ethics and I hope you got an ethics interview for making Dave look like a pathetic, sad person here on national TV.
Seems to be no explanation except that his father is trying to make a buck off of his name.
Oh my God. You guys, Monique. You are the queen of projection. Like, go clear that up. Monique Yingling, you have to clear the definition of the word projection. Okay? And if you want, you can also clear the definition of similar, overt of your own, Monique. These are the two definitions you need to clear: projection and similar, overt of your own. You got to look into your brain, Monique, and find out who's trying to make a quick buck. Because that would be really good for you to answer to yourself in the mirror too. You out there saying like, who's trying to make a quick buck? I mean, I think you're the queen of the quick buck. If you ask any of the kids that have been abused in your hotel chains, we would call you the witch of making a quick buck. You're not even a queen.
This unusual family history and subsequent family feud was set in motion in 1968 when Ron first hears the word Scientology at a business meeting.
What was it about the word Scientology that got you so interested?
I don't know, but it did. All I heard was Scientology, and I thought, what is that?
Ron soon learns that Scientology is a new religion founded by the science fiction writer L. Ron
got scammed soon after hearing that word.
Hubbard.
There are certain evils in society which.
Yeah, and you're one of them, disgusting, indicted felon.
Definitely should cease.
And you should go look in the mirror, L. Ron Hubbard, and get yourself a dentist, because your smell could not be more disgusting. You still smell even though you're dead. Your stink is everywhere.
And we are taking some responsibility for them.
So I went to a place where there was a guy who was teaching Scientology. He would do drills to teach you better communication.
So it was useful for.
So there you go with the drills, you guys, just to really contextualize that. That's how they're grooming everything. That's how they're trauma bonding with their victims. They're making them do these horrendous drills where you're supposed to say that you're getting something out of it, even though you're being psychologically tortured and abused. And again, 21 and up, maybe you're loving it. 21 and down, no consent for any of it.
For you, I would imagine, as a salesman,
Yeah.
and also as a guy who was in a marriage that had a lot of arguments.
Oh, yeah.
Involved.
No, it was not a solution, Dan. Doing drills that are going to normalize overriding any last shred of common sense boundary is not something that is helpful to the end user. It's that simple.
And he says Scientology works wonders for him. Soon he starts paying for one of the central practices of the faith, a sort of count.
There's one photo of the grooming salon. You guys, look. Let's really, oh, look, there's even one of my students right there. Tina is her name. The girl that you see there in that military uniform. Let's look at this course from you guys. So here it is, the inside of one of these grooming salons that we've been talking about. So these two people that you see standing up, they're called the course supervisors. And their job is to make sure that every single last person that is in there is following the grooming instructions that are being read every second of that you see. Like these courses go from 9 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night officially. But then they have a thing called burning the midnight oil, you guys. When any old supervisor, like you see here, can say, oh, well, you know what? You're very slow. You're not understanding L. Ron Hubbard. You're not making your target. I'm going to make you make your target or else. And the or else is now you're going to burn the midnight oil. And just like that, you could end up in one of these grooming salons from 8 a.m. all the way to 10 p.m. at night, and then still have to stay till midnight. And then if we had like the Golden Age of Tech is coming out, Debbie Cook wants everyone completed. Well, now you're staying till 3 a.m. because you're not making your target. You're not getting enough of these drills with the dolls done. You have to sign every last shred of a check sheet is what they call it, because every step that you're doing, they're making you sign and sign and sign again and again and again. It's all these signatures that you're always putting on a piece of paper. So you go, imagine like this, you guys, drill with a doll here. Okay, so here, read Keeping Scientology Working. This is a 8-page thing to read, and it's got all these stupid words that L. Ron Hubbard thought, like, if I have this big nomenclature, I'm gonna sound real intelligent. So he literally put the most ridiculous words to pretend that he was some intellectual when he was just a dumb clown. So then when you read the 10 things, you're like, okay, I finished that one. Okay, next I have to do a drill with a doll. And now they're going to tell you, drill this, drill that. So that's what's going on in those course rooms. And that's you always have someone hovering over you. And I was one of those kids that had to hover over people. I hated that job. I hated that work. My grandmother actually was one of these supervisors. She hated her life. She died of stage 4 cancer thanks to Debbie Cook not allowing her to go to the doctor. So yeah, that's another revelation to add on the mountain of disgusting, depraved things that Debbie Cook did to my family personally. So shout out to you, Debbie Cook, for having abused my grandmother and not having sent her to go get her breast check when she told you she was having something there. And you kept her there for months. Oh, you don't have a replacement is what they would tell these supervisors, you guys, because these grooming salons cannot operate whatsoever under any circumstances in the world without one of these hoverers running around ensuring that everyone is. It's just a police job. You have to police these people. Did you just yawn? Did you find them misunderstood? It's like all of these ridiculous rules that have nothing to do with studying or learning or becoming a better person. It's all grooming, disgusting dysfunction. So now you see the inside of one of these grooming salons. Over here, you see this girl. She's looking in front of someone. So that's what they call a TR drill. And in the back, you have people drilling with e-meters. And then over there on the side, you have someone doing clay demos, because that's the other crazy thing that these people do. It's like all these ridiculous rules that L. Ron Hubbard writes on a piece of paper to jerk himself off to. He's like, oh, you should do a clay demo about how the technology of Scientology should never be altered. And now literally mock up with all this clay that concept, and then have it checked by one of these hoverers to come over and see if you understood what the clay said. And if you, so it's all this like programming through indoctrination of grooming of clay and dolls, and everything looks so kid friendly. But these grooming salons are all dangerous to all children. Let's just make that fact very, very clear.
Counseling called auditing.
See, there you go, guys. You can see with the e-meter and then the person in front of her, and they're like, okay, let's pretend that I'm asking you these questions, but they're not for reals. So you just have to like make up shit here. So that's where the making up shit is completely what it is. Okay. So just so you know, like the difference, when they get locked up in the room by themselves, then they're not supposed to make up anything. But when they're here in these courtrooms doing this, then they're doing the actual torture. And it's fun fact here, I recognize Tina. I recognize this man. I forget his name. And then even the third guy here, he came from South Africa. I forget his name as well, but he was in these courtrooms all the time, you guys. So you can see there's a ton of adults, but what you don't really see in this picture, because they really didn't want to show the minors, they were very sensitive about that. You know, at the beginning, they wouldn't call us for photo shoots. And we always felt like, you know, I remember at the time we were pissed that they're like, oh, why didn't they want to do the photo shoot with us? But now it makes sense. All these photos really don't really have minors on them. But every once in a while, one slips in. So we'll call it out for you when we see one.
That uses a Scientology device called an e-meter.
Look, I didn't know what I was looking for. I knew I was looking for something. And when I got in Scientology, I felt that I found what I was looking for, which did have a lot of answers to life on a basic level.
So many answers.
So again, Ron, just to push back, the answers for life were within you. L. Ron Hubbard installed a broken moral compass inside of you. And it's sad that you were not able to get the necessary level of awareness or harness enough understanding of the facts to see how much you were the effect of betrayal blindness. And that would have been very good for you to understand in therapy, because betrayal blindness, you guys, is what all these people are victims of from all of this horrible psychological manipulative torture. Like, it does not have any place in a civilized society that should be advocating on behalf of the mental health of everybody, because this is a full-blown scam that looks so nice, looks so polished, everything looks so okay. But that is the facade to keep all these crazy abominations happening. You get drilled into becoming a lifeless drone for them. When I said that, they treated us as whores, very Pavlovian. We answered in 1 second. These people just had to say one whistle and we could be electrified. You're getting a COMEV, AKA you're getting indicted. Like, just think about that for a second. You could be told by any of these people at any time for any old reason that they were going to indict you. Because in there, in that hotel environment, as stupid as it sounds, us as kids, naive as we were, as they were telling us we're getting COMEV, we really thought that was something. And it's so ridiculous and horrible, because what about all the kids that are getting told that right now? A COMEV isn't a thing. None of these policies of an indicted felon are anything, and it's pathetic.
So many life-changing benefits. Ron.
The art of communication. See, that's L. Ron Hubbard's pitch. The art of communication, and then he's literally twisting and turning communication. So by the time he's done with you, you don't even know how the hell you're communicating, but you're claiming that you're very helped by all of that abuse that you were just put through. So let's just really contextualize that part.
Ron feels a duty as a parent to introduce his son David to Scientology as well. He hopes that somehow the auditing can help with his son's biggest problem, a nasty and recurring case of asthma.
Well, shout out to you, Ron Miscavige, that we're having a problem with your son having asthma. Because to bring it back to me, the problem my parents saw with me immediately, very immediately, was that I was LGBTQ. I wanted to play with Barbie dolls. I would get locked up for days in a room. I was found doing something creative, painting. They would tell me stop using the color pink and stop being so effeminate and stop being out of valence and la 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 la. And we should audit you so we can really get you in the right direction. And when you really understand that nothing good happens in those goddamn audits, because the audits are the source of the fraud. The audits is where they are turning you against yourself. That's the gaslighting chamber. Okay, so before you go on and say, oh, auditors had such good intentions. Well, you know what? If you're role-playing L. Ron Hubbard, doesn't matter how well-intentioned you are. If you're role-playing him, you have his script. And God have mercy on your soul.
He would get severe attacks.
These must have been terrifying episodes for you as a dad.
That's putting it mildly.
And so it comes to pass that in 1969, at the tender age of 9, David Miscavige has his first auditing session.
At the tender age of 9, you guys, you're being put behind this machine and being asked, has a withhold been missed? What was that? Do you have a withhold, David? What did you just think of? Uh-huh. What are you withholding? Take another look. I'll repeat the auditing question. Has a withhold been missed, David? That right there. What did you just think about? Oh, okay. So you went out with Shelly. And what were you and Shelly doing? Uh-huh. Where? Oh, so you got into the bedroom. And were you married at this time? When was this? Uh-huh. And how did you get on top of her? And what happened when you got on top of her? And who took each other's clothes off? Like, what did you take off? What did she take off? And then what took place? And then what happened? What else is there to this withhold? Did you go all the way? How did you do it? Where did you do it? How many times? What did you use for lubrication? I mean, nothing was off limits to these so-called auditors, you guys. When we say no boundary role plays, it's not something funny or kitschy or something to whatever. Like, this is what these sessions are. This is how withhold finding looks like and sounds like. So at the very tender age of 9, David started getting abused in these audits. And that's what normalized him doing it to others. Because how in the hell is he going to realize that what his own father put him up to was supposed to be this disgusting, horrific, fraudulent nightmare?
About 45 minutes later, David walks out, smiling, bright.
And in that
45 minutes later, you guys, you parents that are in the comments can probably answer that question for us. At the tender age of 9, if you mothers have had children and even fathers, what happens to a 9-year-old when they get left in a room, in a locked room, with a stranger being plugged to this machine, being asked inappropriate questions, no boundaries, nothing? That adult had his way with David. He could ask him anything. He could check anything. He could tell him to stay. And it took him 45 minutes that he kept him there. That's a short session, you guys. Usually these things could go on for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. Some kids are so disassociated and numbed by this that they don't understand that they have to say that they're loving it so much. And then the auditor just keeps on going, keeps on going, keeps on going, because it's like they just become these robots. Like, no therapy is existing if you're following a script, a rote script that you're getting yelled at and screamed at if you left something off the script. That's how these sessions were carried out. And that is just ridiculous, disgusting, and outrageous.
that moment, the future is born, a future of fame and power as David Miscavige rises to the highest.
I mean, again, you guys, like, what is it with you wanting to launder the image of David and pump him up and the fame and the power? It's like, it's ridiculous. Like, this is disgusting what this man became. You just saw how it was all normalized for him by his own father. That's how it happens. That's how the generational trauma happens. Had our parents not endorsed it, how in the hell do you think we would have ended up there, Dan? So think about that to push back on your completely, utterly glib statement.
Levels of Scientology, and a future of turmoil and pain as his family life erupts into a civil war.
So you think that was the key turning point in his whole life?
I know it.
All right, you guys, that ends that segment. Again, there's a lot to really kind of ponder about and think about. You know, it's like, here you have the full cycle of how it happened to me, and now we have the full cycle of how it happened to Ron Miscavige, and even now David is being contextualized into how in the hell did he get those depraved ideas, and how did he get traumatized by this system, and then how did he become the one that was controlling the system to then be able to abuse others. And we saw his psychology. He was a bully since he was a child. So it's all just so clear. I mean, seriously, like, shout out to all the therapists out there that would be David's worst nightmare, because again, there's no therapist that can help you if you're out there committing felonies. There is nothing that can be done for you if that's what you are doing. If you're doing that, you need to be locked up. So I really want everyone to think about that and ponder about that when you think about what in the hell is going on. And I think this is a very good segment to really like ask ourselves how we're going to get something to change, and to really just like change, because I think it's pretty obvious what needs to change.